Hello, everybody. I'm Skip Elsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where I'm wearing a new shirt that I got. This came from Michael Aguirre. I hope I'm saying his name right. I could be saying it wrong, but he is a fellow film collector, exhibitionist, 16mm exhibitionist, not his body, in Los Angeles, who came to my show and we hung out, and he made this shirt. Which I immediately purchased, and I'll put a link to it if I can find it if you're interested. But it says, see it on 16mm. So it's pretty exciting. Anyways, that's what we do here, is we watch films on 16mm, and sometimes we have lunch. So that first film was a silent film from the Mogul Brothers collection, How Nature Protects Animals. And Mogul Brothers, of course, was a library that you could rent films or purchase them. And what's interesting is that they would often repurpose material and put their own titles on it. And this next film is an example of that. And based on, for some of you seasoned people who've been watching the show for a while, see if you can figure out who made this film, and see how the title is clipped. So here's Electrostatics, or I think the title says Chemistry of Electrostatics. Enjoy.
Hydrogen is passing through the tube. The hydrogen unites with the oxygen of the rust to form water, which collects at the end of the tube. The iron oxide, having lost its oxygen, has become iron, for now the magnet attracts it. This is obviously a process of oxidation and reduction. The hydrogen uniting with the oxygen of the iron oxide is oxidized to water. The iron oxide, by losing its oxygen, is reduced to iron. Hydrogen is the reducing agent. Coke is another reducing agent. Here we see it loaded into cars and hoisted to the top of a blast furnace to aid in reducing iron ore to iron. Coke is mainly carbon. Iron ore is composed chiefly of oxides of iron. In this cross-section drawing, we see the furnace being filled with alternate layers, one of ore and limestone, and another of coke. A hot blast rushing up from the bottom of the furnace converts the coke into the gas carbon monoxide. This removes the oxygen from the iron ore, reducing it to metallic iron. The continued intense heat melts the iron, which passes through to the bottom of the furnace and is drained off. Still another reducing agent is magnesium. Here is a metal which burns in air and liberates more energy in the form of heat than any substance considered thus far. The resulting white substance is magnesium oxide. Steam is being generated in this flask. I ignite a magnesium ribbon in the water vapor inside. In this reaction, the magnesium extracts oxygen from the steam and liberates hydrogen, which we see delivered at the left. The magnesium, reacting with the water, becomes magnesium oxide and liberates hydrogen. With this magnesium powder and this block of dry ice, I shall demonstrate in even more striking fashion the reducing power of magnesium. Dry ice is carbon dioxide, ordinarily a gas, but here so cold that it is a solid. In it I have made a hole in which I have placed the magnesium powder mixed with pulverized dry ice. The magnesium powder within the mixture itself burns furiously in spite of the extremely low temperature by taking the oxygen from the powdered dry ice. This is reduced to black bits of carbon. The reducing power of aluminum is shown in the welding of a steel rail by the Goldschmidt process. A mixture of aluminum powder and iron oxide is poured into a crucible and primed with ignition powder. A mold is formed about the rail, and the crucible is mounted in place on top of the mold. The reaction is started. The aluminum, in reacting with the iron oxide in the crucible, reduces it and generates enough heat to melt the resulting iron. The crucible is tapped. The iron runs down into the mold, welding together the two ends of the rail. Oxidation and reduction are always going on in our surroundings. They are occurring in the burning of fuels, in the smelting of metals, and in the rusting or corrosion, while that which glass rubbed with silk is positive electrification. Evidently, unlike kinds attract each other, whereas like kinds repel. We can interpret what we have just seen by the hypothesis that all matter is composed of both positive and negative electricity in equal amounts. When the amber was rubbed with fur, the amber acquired an excess of negative electricity and the fur an excess of positive. The glass, when rubbed with silk, was left with an excess of positive and the silk with an excess of negative. On certain substances, such as glass and amber, electrical charges accumulated in this manner remain localized. These substances are called insulators. In other substances, notably the metals, negative electricity under certain circumstances moves about. These substances are called conductors. Note that the charges concentrate at the pointed end. Only an insulated metallic conductor may be charged. As soon as this insulated metallic object, which has been charged negatively, is grounded by the conducting wire, the excess negative charges pass off into the ground and are lost, nor can it be charged positively, because any positive charge conferred upon it is immediately neutralized by negative charges attracted thereto from the ground. Note that only the negative charge moves in metallic conductors. Electrical charges may be detected and their kind determined by the gold leaf electroscope. When the leaves are charged either positively or negatively by contact of a charged body with the knob, the leaves diverge because they are repelled by the identical charges on them. But even if the charged body merely approaches without touching the uncharged knob, the leaves move apart. How can this happen? Recall that electrification of one kind repels charges of the same kind. Hence, as a negative charge is brought near, negative charges in the material of the electroscope are repelled downward to the leaves, resulting in an excess of negative charge on the leaves, which causes them to diverge. When we ground the electroscope while the charged body is near, the excess negative charges through their mutual repulsion flow down to the ground. Upon breaking the ground and removing the charged body, the leaves will be found to diverge and to be positively charged. This is called charging by induction. This electroscope is positively charged. Let us use it to determine the kind of electric charge on this object. When it is brought near the knob, the leaves diverge still more. This shows that the leaves must have acquired additional positive charges by the loss of negative charges which have been drawn away from them toward the knob by the unknown charge. Therefore, the unknown charge must be positive, since negative charges have been attracted. Suppose, however, the approach of a charged body causes the leaves of the electroscope to collapse. Remember that it was positively charged. We conclude that negative charges have been forced down to the leaves, neutralizing some of their excess positive charges. Since negative repels negative, the unknown charge in this case must have been negative. In this fashion, the electroscope may not only indicate kind of electric charge, but roughly measure its quantity. However, the myriad uses of electricity in modern life involve the necessity of exact measurement. The quantitative measurement of electrical charges is made by means of this instrument called the electrometer. The principle of the electrometer is the same as that of the electroscope. The essential parts of the electrometer are these: a needle.
I'm chewing on a sandwich. Oops. Sorry, 1 second. Alright, sorry about that. I had a wrap. Anyways, that was obviously our good friend, James Brill, who we know from ERPI and Encyclopedia Britannica. So I did some research. I looked up in some books that list copyright holdings. And that one, it says it was 1950, but that's obviously before 1950 when that was made. And in fact, it shows up in a Mogul Brothers library thing in 1945. So I think that was an ERPI thing, and I think either the title got clipped on purpose or accidentally got clipped, and they're like, oh, well, we'll just print this title. And they had that weird music before. I don't know. So they shot their own title, renamed it, and rented it, sold it, much probably to ERPI's chagrin if they knew about it. So there you go. Mogul Brothers. Little sneaky. All right, well, let's learn about a Saturn launch complex number 34. Enjoy. Doesn't seem like there's audio on this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to the film scanner, which is probably what I should have done anyways. So years ago, like probably more than 10 years ago, we scanned a bunch of films from somebody whose supposedly father was a cameraman on this show and had copies of this. So we scanned them, sent them files, and they're like, yeah, we don't want the films back. You can keep them. I was like, huh, that's interesting. So this one, it's a series that was on WCBS called Camera 3, and they would interview different performing artists and poets and philosophers of the time. And so this, let's see what this is. Maybe I don't know if there's any celebrities on here or anybody that you know, but let's watch this episode of Camera 3. Enjoy.
Will Rogers used to say, I don't make jokes, I just read the newspapers and report the facts. The easygoing geniality with which he surrounded his barbs made Will Rogers one of the most loved men of his time. Our guests today on Camera 3 may not aspire to being loved, but they do love to be laughed at, or with. We think they're significant contributors to the present-day revival of the wonderful tradition of American political satire, with certain other television and nightclub comedians, a few cartoonists, and one or two novelists. They seem to be the descendants not only of Will Rogers and H.L. Mencken, but of Mark Twain and Finley Peter Dunne. They are, in fact, a pioneering company of the newer breed of comic actors, improvisational players, who are amusing audiences and taunting the establishment today, here and in Europe. And so, in their second appearance on Camera 3, we give you now the members of the Second City Company.
Ned Polsky reporting, CBS News Roundup. We're here in New York, about to take you on a probe in depth of the nation and the world news. First of all, we'd like to take you to Western Germany. We've heard of various stories of acts of violence, various Nazi leaders on the rise in Western Germany. So for that story, we'd like to take you now to our roving correspondent there, deep in the heart of the Black Forest in Western Germany, Ned Polsky. Take it away, Ned Polsky.
Thank you very much, Ned. This is Ned Polsky, ladies and gentlemen, speaking to you from the beautiful Black Forest section of Germany's lovely Schwarzwald. And as Ned told you, we are here today to discover if there's any truth to the rumors we have heard that there is a resurgence of Nazism in West Germany today. We're going to be interviewing some teenagers we found frolicking in the forest here, and as soon... Oh, here's one of them now. Young man, come here. Come here, don't be afraid. How would you like to say hello to the United States via intercontinental television?
Oh, that would be very nice. Hello, United States.
Now, my boy, as I was just telling our audience, we're trying to find out if there's any truth to the rumors we have heard that there is a resurgence of Nazism in West Germany today. What can you tell us about that?
No, I can tell you it's not true.
Well, son, as a typical German teenage boy, and I'm sure you are...
Oh, I am.
Yes. Well, what do you personally feel about Nazism?
No, I don't like Nazism one bit. In fact, I say thumbs down to Nazis.
That's very wonderful. That's an interesting armband you're wearing there. May I ask what it represents?
Oh, yeah, that's my club.
What is the name of your club?
Well, we call it the Anti-Nazi Bund.
Isn't that wonderful, ladies and gentlemen? Here we have a courageous German teenager who belongs to a club called the Anti-Nazi Bund. And what are some of the activities of your club?
Oh, we march around.
Uh-huh.
And we wear uniforms.
Well, yes, but what would you say is the principal activity of your group?
To look for Nazis.
Well, we are told there are no Nazis in West Germany.
We find them.
Yes, but what is the ultimate goal or purpose of your organization?
The final solution of the Nazi problem.
Back to Ned Polsky in New York.
Thank you, Ned Polsky. This is Ned Polsky back in New York, CBS News Roundup. Certainly one of the big stories of the year was the congressional hearings looking into the indoctrination of our troops with certain political matter and so on. For more on that story, we'd like to interview one side of the question. We'd like to take you back to West Berlin, right next to the West Berlin Wall, as a matter of fact, where again our roving correspondent, Ned Polsky, is on the scene to interview Colonel Clevis of the United States Army. Take it away, Ned Polsky.
Thank you, Ned. This is Ned Polsky here in West Berlin. We're waiting for the arrival of Colonel John Clevis, who's going to tell us something about brainwashing, the way it's practiced in Berlin today by the communists.
Hey, listen, get
Here
that
comes the
thing
colonel
out
now.
of the
He's walking
parking
this
lot.
way, looking
Drop
dapper
those
and trim
double
for his
bags
57
kicking out of
years.
the hot sun.
Approaching the camera area.
Say, listen here, soldier. What kind of a uniform do you call that?
No, I'm not a soldier, sir. I'm Ned Polsky from CBS. How do you do?
Oh, I'm very glad to do that to those.
Very nice to meet you, sir.
Yes, very happy
I
to
can't
do
help but notice that you're wearing your helmet today, sir. Is that to protect you in case any action breaks out here in Berlin?
No, Ned, I just fall down a lot.
I see. Sir, maybe you could tell us exactly what it is you do here in West Berlin.
I'll be happy to do that, Ned. Here in West Berlin, in this embattled city just yards away from the communist menace, we are mounting the bastions of the American way of life in this tender underbelly of democracy, where we are keeping a corridor of freedom open to this Achilles heel of NATO. And what we are doing, Ned, we are maintaining a training school for our brave GI boys to protect them against the communist menace of brainwashing.
So in other words, so you're running a training school, is that right?
Right with Eversharp, yeah.
Fine. Now, as far as brainwashing itself is concerned, I know that it came into common usage sometime during the Korean conflict.
Yes, it
But
did.
I don't know exactly how it ties into the present situation.
I'll
Maybe
be
you could
happy to straighten you
straighten us
out
out
on
on
that, Ned. Brainwashing today occurs when the commies actually get a hold of one of our brave GI boys. See, they'll grab him and they'll whisk him away to some underground cell or secret laboratory crammed full of diabolical equipment. And when they get him there, Ned, they wash his brain. I mean, I could show you some photographs of dry, chapped brains that would make your stomach cringe. And when we get a boy like that back again, Ned, he's no good to us. I mean, he's just a walking fountain of communistic propaganda. He'll walk around spouting phrases like Wall Street imperialists or capitalist warmongers. And the poor soul doesn't even realize he's just repeating those phrases parrot-like, that they've been drilled into him by these atheistic totalitarian aggressors.
Sir, what would you say is the best defense against this brainwashing?
Well, Ned, I would say the best and only defense against brainwashing is an unshakable, unswervable faith in the American way of life. If you haven't got it here, you haven't got it, Ned.
Well put, sir. For the benefit of those of you who are listening on the radio, Colonel Clevis just went like this. Now, sir, I'd like to ask you, what happens if one of these boys doesn't have this unswervable, unshakable faith?
Well, Ned, that's basically a mental problem. I mean, it's what's up front that counts, and that's exactly where our training...
Second. It lost tension, so working on it. I'm gonna back it up just a little bit. Oh, I see what's going on. I see what's happening. Alright, 1 second. Oops. That whole time, I'm trying to get tension on the scanner, the Ned Polsky film scanner that I have.
How do you do that, sir?
We drill it into them day after day after day.
And by what means?
Well, we use the finest audiovisual tools, Ned. For example, we have a very fine film called Operation Abolition. That was put out by our fine House Un-American Activities Committee, you know. We show the boys that film a few times, and they begin to understand.
Would you mind telling us about how many times it takes?
Oh, 80 or 90 times, and they've got the picture.
80 or 90, that
Yeah.
many. I imagine this would take place during about a 2 or 3 week period.
That's the first day, Ned.
Oh, my. Sir, am I right in assuming that this program took place under the auspices of General Wacker?
Yes.
And that you worked under him in the...
Indeed I did, yes, Ned.
Well, how do you feel about him, sir?
He's a pinko in my book, Ned.
I see. Thank you, sir. We now take you back to New York Central.
This is Ned Polsky, CBS News Roundup continuing. Certainly this is a big year for the state of California. We understand this year that state will exceed in population every other state of the nation. Certainly the 19th century was a big century for the state of California. As you remember, it was the year of the great gold rush, the opening up of California, its development, and so on. There has been the charge that many people out there in California, the citizens of that state, have never left the 19th century. We'd like to perhaps disprove that charge, and right now we'd like to take you out to L.A. City College in Los Angeles, where, our roving correspondent, Ned Polsky, is on the scene. Ned, take it away.
Thank you, Ned. This is Ned Polsky here.
I'm gonna have to continue this later. I'm sorry about that. Let's let's learn about your accident.
Joe Stillert, mill worker, recently put in charge of safety. At least that's the way he explains it. Really, he was just given a few signs and told to go hang 'em around. But Joe takes his work seriously. That is, when he works. This is Mike. He acts like a big kid sometimes. But then you can't blame him. If there's anything that gets you sore, it's when your car won't start. When you're late to begin with, it's like some days the whole world's against you. Or maybe this day Mike was against the world. All because his car wouldn't start. Mike's daughter thought she was bringing her dad a real treat with that tomato. It was his favorite fruit. But Mike wasn't in a mood for favors. The plant foreman hadn't seen Joe and Mike pull into the parking lot. If he had, he probably would have taken Mike aside for a short lecture. You'd think Joe thought up this poster himself the way he was acting, telling everybody they can cause their own accidents, especially when they're in a lousy state of mind. According to Joe, that's what the poster meant. If you're disgusted, it's real easy to have an accident, and it will be all yours because you made it happen. Poor Joe, he's just got one fault. He's usually talking when he should be listening. And this was one of those times. Can't blame Mike for getting sore, the mood he was in. They're good friends, but Joe's always getting under Mike's skin. And he sure did this day. But it was easy. Mike was mad at the whole world and took it out on Joe and the blower he had to grease. Joe was still a little hurt with what Mike had said about his safety poster. They had to take off a few of Mike's fingers. He sure took it well, though. His family spent a lot of time with him, and his daughter had prepared a fruit basket for him. As you might imagine, the first thing he went for was one of the tomatoes. It bothered him, knowing he had only the use of one hand. Well, there was Joe again, talking when he should have been listening. He meant all right, but it was the wrong time to remind Mike of his accident. But Joe went right on, telling how Mike had been disgusted and dropped the tomato in his pie that morning just because he was mad about his car. Poor Mike finally blew up and asked Joe if he thought he'd lost his fingers just because he was mad that morning. Then maybe it wasn't an accident. Well, you know Joe still didn't have enough sense to keep his mouth shut. He should have changed the subject, but instead the words on his poster popped into his head and he blurted out, "Face it, it's your accident." Everybody felt awful. Even Joe could have bit his tongue, and Mike could have killed him. It was lucky the nurse came in when she did. She brought in Mike's roommate who had busted up his leg in a tractor accident. His name was Mike, too. Mike introduced everybody to the kid. When he came to Joe, he saw his chance to put him on the spot. He told the kid that Joe was the kind of guy that thought people caused their own accidents. Well, he did the wrong thing. It seems the nurse was on Joe's side. She said Joe was right. That if she'd seen it once, she'd seen it 100 times. People are most likely to cause their own accidents when they're emotionally upset, like when they're mad, or worried, or even horsing around. Some people horse around because they're upset. Other people just act mad. But no matter which way they act when they're emotionally upset, they cause their own accidents. Poor Mike. And Joe, for once in his life, knew enough to keep his mouth shut. At first, Mike was sort of peeved when the kid took one of his tomatoes. They were two of a kind. In fact, the nurses called the kid Little Mike. Mike's wife said they'd bring some more tomatoes, and the foreman figured it was a good time for Joe and him to leave. He started wondering, what could I have done to have prevented this? Now that there'd been a serious accident, safety was a popular subject. Only trouble is, when a man works in the same plant every day, it's hard for him to see places where he could have an accident. He becomes blind to many of the hazards. The foreman began in the old mill, looking for unsafe practices. There's some awfully dangerous positions a man can get into even when he doesn't have a care in the world, let alone being upset with something. None of the men, not even Joe, as proud as he was of his safety poster, seemed to be aware of what can cause an accident. The end of a conveyor belt is a good place to bend a few fingers, especially the way these guys were operating. Grab a sack by reaching across it, and one of your hands can be pulled down between the belt and the frame real easily. Not everyone in the mill was as careless as you might think. The man who took care of most of the maintenance was a good example. He made sure no one was going to start a machine that he had to work on. And he knew how dangerous a man lift could be. It isn't a thing you play around on. Mike and Little Mike were sure two of a kind. Having company was good for Mike. Only trouble was, he kept thinking about his fight with Joe and wondering if maybe Joe was right, that maybe he had caused his own accident, the way Joe said. He asked Little Mike about his accident again, and Little Mike explained he'd broken a cultivator shovel and had to stop for repairs. When he finally finished the field, he headed home wide open and didn't get slowed down in time to make the driveway. He jumped, but as the tractor went over, one of the rear wheels rolled across his leg, and that was it. He didn't mean that it had been his fault, because the way he looked at it, if you're going to have an accident, you're going to have an accident. But somehow this didn't satisfy Mike. He kept wondering if Joe and the nurse were right. He didn't have to wonder long. Little Mike gave him his answer, impatient because the nurse hadn't brought his lunch yet. Two of a kind. His accident had been just like little Mike's. Plain as day. Just what Joe had been talking about. If anybody had ever caused his own accident, it had been little Mike. Mike began thinking about what led up to his accident. Yep, he had acted just like the kid. Only instead of breaking a leg, he'd lost some of his fingers. Mike had his answer. Joe was right. Whenever you're mad or upset, it sure is easy to have an accident. That's when you really have to watch it. It wasn't too long before Mike was back at work. They found a few things he could do, and he appreciated Joe coming by to pick him up. He didn't even mind Joe gabbing all the time. After all, Joe never meant any harm in what he did. He just liked to have some fun now and then. Mike's attitude had really changed. Thanks to him, even Joe will be more careful. You see, I know. I'm Joe.
I can check that gear in a minute, so don't touch anything, okay? Hey! Get down from there! Now! Hey! Turn it over! What if it bumped that control by accident? You'd be mincemeat by now. What have I told you? You don't work on equipment when the engine's running.
Well, I told him not to touch anything. All right, I guess I wasn't thinking.
You weren't thinking? You mean you'll work on engines and machinery and not think of your own personal safety? Here. Shake hands with danger.
things by the book. Just let me get my toolbox and I'll take myself a look. I climbed up on a dozier with my mechanic's pride. Said, you can keep it running, friend, while I poke around inside. Shake hands with danger, meet a guy you ought to know. I used to laugh at safety, now they call me Three-Fingered Joe. Although I learned a lesson, I forgot it soon enough. The nicks and burns and scratches showed the young ones I was tough. Till another morning I was grinding on some steel. My other hand got careless and fed my skin into the wheel. Shake hands with danger, step right up and say hello. Grinding wheels and metal are what made me Three-Fingered Joe. I've seen mechanics burning, and I've seen them take a fall just to save themselves a minute. I've seen them lose it all. I've watched them courting trouble, seen them take a chance and lose. They get careless for a moment and spend a lifetime with the blues. Shake hands with I used to know. Compared to them, I'm lucky to be just Three-Fingered Joe.
I mean, of course I had to show that because one, there was a guy named Joe in the film. 2, it was a safety film. 3, somebody lost some fingers. I had to. It was just the planets aligned. The safety film planets aligned, and I had to show this. And you know, anytime I can play this kind of awesome re-envisioning of the Shake Hands with Danger song, I'm up for it. Man, I am so sorry. My scanner, I'm not sure what's going on with this film in particular. It's really very strange how it is losing tension, and there's nothing visibly that tells me it's not warped. I'm not sure exactly what's happening. So, sorry about that. I want to show this, and maybe I will next week figure out a way to get it scanned, and we will watch the remaining part of it and find out what's up with Ned Polsky and the Second City. I mean, it's an interesting thing, right? Like I found like an IMDb listing for a Camera 3, but it's very. I don't see any other instance of it existing out in the world, so it's kind of cool. And I'm happy that you kind of enjoyed how madcap it was, early Second City. And Alan Arkin, rest in peace, using the same accent. I think he just kind of has that accent that he uses and everything. Excuse me. If you like what you saw, you can donate by clicking the Super Thanks button and sending some cash our way. I'll just say it's going to pay for a storage space rental, because that's what we're paying for now. Beyond, we've outgrown the actual archive here in Raleigh, and so we have tried to find other places to put stuff, and we're trying to come up with a contingency plan on what to do for all the films that we have, and the films that are showing up. We're getting a lot of films from other collections that are either culling their collections or they are disbanding their collections, and we're trying to find a place so they don't end up in a dumpster, and so that we can show them to folks like you. So you can go to ko-fi.com/avgeeks or patreon.com/avgeeks to donate to our cause, but you can also just hit the thumbs up button or the like button, and also just watch other things that we have. I mean, you like watching and commenting? We've got thousands of films that we've digitized from our collection and from other people's collections on our YouTube site, and you're welcome to watch them. There'll be a little ad in there. You can let the ad bounce off your head, and we make a couple of pennies every time that happens. But otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great weekend. I'm not going to be here Monday, I don't think. It's guaranteed I won't be here this weekend, but this Monday. But I might be off-site. I haven't decided yet. We'll figure it out. But regardless, have a great weekend, and take care of yourself, and we will see you soon. Take care.